Introducing the Current Affairs Workbook. It is an activity-driven learning comprising summaries, quick facts, MCQs, true-false statements, mains practice questions, and ethics case studies, consolidated into a comprehensive workbook. Dive into our monthly magazine summary, a concise overview capturing key insights, events, and trends of the month. Unlock the power of our Quick Facts block, your rapid reference toolkit with essential facts, figures, and critical statistics. Experience our dynamic activities like MCQs and true-false statements to subjective questions and ethics case studies that refine your analytical thinking and articulation skills. Track your progress with our dedicated self-evaluation page, your personal growth monitoring and improvement tool. Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. Banking Regulation Act 1949 completes 75 years. Supreme Court took exception of long-term temporary employment in public institution. Standing Committee on Railways releases report focusing on railway modernization and financial sustainability. Agritech for Women Farmers, a business case for inclusive growth report released by WEF. District-level climate risk assessment report for India, mapping flood and drought risks using IPCC framework released. India AI seeks proposal for ethical use of AI. Now let's talk about a significant milestone in India's financial history, the completion of 75 years of the Banking Regulation Act 1949. This landmark legislation has been pivotal in regulating and supervising India's banking sector, ensuring its operational integrity and safeguarding the interests of depositors. Let's start by looking back at the pre-independence era. Before 1949, the regulation of banks was handled through the Companies Act of 1850 and the Reserve Bank of India Act of 1934. Now, moving on to the key provisions of the Act. First, under licensing and operations, it mandates that all banks must obtain a license from the Reserve Bank of India or RBI to operate. It also governs the rules for opening and closing bank branches. Second, there is management oversight, giving RBI the authority to control the composition of bank boards, appoint directors, and oversee management practices. Third, the Act focuses on financial stability by requiring banks to maintain adequate cash reserves, liquid assets, and follow restrictions on dividends. Lastly, to ensure public disclosure, it mandates regular audits and public release of financial statements, promoting transparency in banking operations. Now, let's talk about the achievements of this historic Act. Over the years, it has significantly shaped India's banking landscape. Inclusion and outreach have been major achievements, thanks to initiatives like Priority Sector Lending, which directs credit to agriculture and small industries. The Act has also contributed to stabilization of the banking sector. For example, regulatory measures under the Act, such as capital adequacy requirements and liquidity coverage ratios, shielded Indian banks during the 2008 global financial crisis. It has played a critical role in trust building, boosting public confidence through stringent regulatory oversight and depositor protection. One of the standout features introduced under the Act is the Prompt Corrective Action Framework, designed by the RBI. This framework helps identify financial distress early and ensures that corrective measures are implemented promptly. Adaptability is another hallmark of this legislation. It has evolved to address new challenges like digital banking and global financial standards. Notable examples include the introduction of payment banks in 2014 and small finance banks in 2016. The Banking Regulation Act 1949 has undoubtedly been a cornerstone of India's financial stability and growth. As it completes 75 years, its legacy continues to guide the Indian banking system in meeting modern challenges while ensuring trust and stability.
In a landmark judgment, the Supreme Court has taken a firm stand against the misuse of long-term temporary employment in public institutions, emphasizing its detrimental effects on public trust and justice. This stems from the case of Jaggo and others versus Union of India and others, where Supreme Court criticized misuse of temporary contracts in public institutions, stating it erodes public trust and undermines justice. Now, let's first understand the context of this case. 4 housekeeping staff of the Central Water Commission were employed on ad hoc terms for over 20 years before being abruptly terminated in 2018. The Supreme Court, while quashing their termination, ordered their reinstatement and directed their regularization. The Apex Court highlighted critical issues that stem from such employment practices. First, the rise in systemic exploitation of workers in the gig economy was noted. While the gig economy has seen significant growth in the private sector, it has also led to precarious work arrangements, depriving workers of essential benefits, job security, and fair treatment. Second, the court flagged practice of outsourcing in the public sector. Public institutions often avoid regular employment obligations by repeatedly outsourcing temporary positions, creating a cycle of exploitation and instability for workers. Lastly, it pointed out that long-term use of temporary workers for essential roles violates international labor standards. This not only risks legal challenges for organizations but also undermines employee morale and productivity. The court's observations align with precedents from other significant cases. In State of Karnataka versus Uma Devi, the Supreme Court held that long-term irregular employees performing essential duties should be considered for regularization. Similarly, in Vinod Kumar and others versus Union of India and others case, the court emphasized the procedural technicality should not prevent the regularization of workers who have performed regular duties for extended periods. Now shifting focus to the gig economy, the Niti Aayog predicts the gig workforce in India will grow from 7.7 million in 2020-21 to 23.5 million by 2029-30. India has introduced measures to address these challenges. The Code on Social Security 2020 defines gig workers and provides for extension of social security benefits to gig workers as well. Additionally, the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020 aims to ensure a safe and healthy work environment, regulating contract labor to prevent exploitation.
Moving ahead, we bring you highlights from a critical report released by the Standing Committee on Railways, focusing on railway modernization and financial sustainability. The report sheds light on some pressing issues and lays down key recommendations to improve the efficiency and safety of Indian railways. Let's start with the key issues identified in the report. On the financial front, Indian Railways remains heavily dependent on freight services on its earnings. In 2023-24, the revenue from freight stood at 1,68,293 crore rupees, while passenger services generated 70,693.33 crore rupees. Operationally, the average speed of freight trains has been a concern. It has remained stagnant at just 25 km per hour over the past 11 years. Coming to safety, the slow implementation of the Kavach system has been highlighted. So far, only 1,465 route kilometers in South Central Railway and 80 route kilometers in North Central Railway are equipped with this technology. For those unfamiliar, Kavach aids the loco pilot in running of train within specified speed limits by automatic application of brakes in case loco pilot fails to do so, and also helps the trains to run safely during the adverse weather conditions. Another critical point raised was the allocation for research and development. Only 72.01 crore rupees, including public-private partnership or PPP projects, has been allocated for railway research in 2024-25. Moving on to the recommendations of the committee. To boost revenue, the report suggests reviewing AC class fares to align them with the cost incurred, while ensuring that general class fares remains affordable. Additionally, it aims to increase non-fare revenue to 20% by 2030 through measures like advertising and commercial development. For infrastructure development, the committee calls for streamlining the land acquisition process, improving coordination with state governments, and completing dedicated freight corridors at the earliest. In the area of safety and modernization, key recommendations include eliminating unmanned level crossings, accelerating track renewals, and expediting the deployment of the Kavach system and more. The report paints a clear picture of the challenges facing Indian Railways while offering actionable solutions. With the implementation of these recommendations, the journey toward a safer, modern, and financially sustainable railway system could become a reality.
Ahead, we bring attention to a significant stride towards inclusivity in agriculture. The World Economic Forum has released a report titled Agritech for Women Farmers, a Business Case for Inclusive Growth. This report offers a global perspective on gender-inclusive agritech and highlights how gender-inclusive agritech can help women farmers achieve their full potential. Let's begin by understanding why gender-inclusive agritech is essential. The report highlights the phenomenon of feminization of agriculture. In India, women constitute nearly 50% of the workforce in commercial value chains such as cotton, sugarcane, tea, coffee, and cashews. However, despite their substantial contributions, women farmers earn up to 60% less than men and face barriers like limited access to finance, training, and technology. Furthermore, adopting agritech can enhance efficiency by transitioning to data-driven planning of production. Agritech can reduce both food loss and food waste and enable businesses to make their supply chains more efficient and resilient. The report also positions gender-inclusive agritech as a strategic business imperative for private sector stakeholders. Now, while the potential of agritech is immense, women farmers face several challenges in adopting it. These challenges can be classified into demand-side and supply-side issues. On the demand side, socio-cultural barriers persist, including restrictive perceptions about gender roles and biases, mobility constraints, and safety concerns. Additionally, women often lack access to critical resources such as land ownership, which hinders their ability to secure formal credit and farm extension services. Literacy barriers, low education, and digital literacy further restrict their awareness of agritech solutions. On the supply side, there is a lack of gender disaggregated data to differentiate between experiences of male and female farmers in accessing and using agritech services. Moreover, gaps in support systems such as limited mentorship, peer learning opportunities, and weak coordination between agricultural research and extension services further hinders the progress. So how can we address these challenges? The report suggests a multifaceted approach. First, price. Make solutions affordable and explore alternative revenue models. Second, product. Develop solutions tailored to women's specific needs with intuitive designs and rigorous testing. Third, promotion. Use trusted channels and influential advocates to promote agritech solutions. Fourth, place. Ensure accessibility by strategically locating services. And lastly, people. Increase women's participation in agritech roles and provide targeted training to empower them.
Moving ahead, we'll discuss a groundbreaking report released by IIT Guwahati in collaboration with IIT Mandi and the Centre for Study of Science, Technology and Policy, or CSTEP, Bengaluru. The report, titled District Level Climate Risk Assessment for India, focuses on mapping flood and drought risks using the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC framework. Let's dive straight into the key findings of this crucial report, which highlights the dual challenges posed by floods and droughts and their disproportionate impact on vulnerable populations. Starting with flood risk assessment, the report identifies that 51 districts in India fall under the very high flood risk category, while another 118 districts are in the high flood risk category. These high-risk districts are primarily located in states such as Assam, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, Gujarat, Odisha, and Jammu Kashmir. On the other hand, the drought risk assessment reveals that 91 districts face a very high drought risk, with another 188 districts in the high drought risk category. The states most affected by drought risk include Bihar, Assam, Jharkhand, Odisha, and Maharashtra. Now, moving to the dual risk of floods and droughts, the report highlights that 11 districts in India are at a very high risk of experiencing both these climate challenges, making them particularly vulnerable. So, what is the way forward? The report provides a roadmap to mitigate these risks. It calls for a multi-scale and sectoral approach, ensuring that risks are assessed at various levels and across different sectors. It also stresses the importance of incorporating future climate scenarios into risk assessments, highlighting the need to stay ahead of emerging threats. Capacity building is another key recommendation, with a focus on continuously enhancing the skills of state and district administrators to address these challenges effectively. Additionally, the report suggests updating frameworks to include emerging risks such as landslides, heat stress, and compound events. Before we wrap up, let's understand how the India Meteorological Department or IMD defines these climate phenomena. A drought is declared when the rainfall deficiency in an area is 26% or more of its long-term normal. This is further classified into moderate drought, with a deficiency of 26 to 50% and severe drought, where the deficiency exceeds 50%. Meanwhile, a flood is defined as an overflow of water that submerges normally dry land. It can result from heavy rainfall, cyclonic events, or when rivers and water bodies exceed their capacity. This report is a stark reminder of the challenges we face as a nation and the urgent need for action.
Ahead, let's look at an exciting update on India's progressive step in the world of artificial intelligence. Under the India AI mission, proposals are now being sought for the ethical use of AI as part of the safe and trusted AI pillar, recognizing the need for adequate guardrails to advance the responsible adoption of AI and enable the development of indigenous tools and frameworks. Let's first understand the body driving this initiative. India AI, an independent business division under the Union Ministry of Electronics and IT, or MEITY, is the implementation agency for the India AI mission. Now, why do we need an ethical AI framework? The goal is clear: to prevent bias and discrimination in AI systems, promote transparency and accountability in AI decision-making, and foster societal awareness about its implications. So what are the key themes identified under the safe and trusted AI pillar? Let's take a closer look. First, watermarking and labeling. This involves developing tools to authenticate AI-generated content, ensuring it is traceable, secure, and free from harmful materials. Second, ethical AI frameworks. These frameworks are being designed to align with global standards, ensuring that AI systems respect human values and promote fairness. Next, we have AI risk assessment and management. The focus here is creating tools and frameworks to enhance the safe deployment of AI, especially in public services. Additionally, there is an emphasis on stress testing tools. These tools will assess how AI models perform under extreme conditions, helping to detect vulnerabilities and building trust in AI applications that are critical to society. And finally, the development of deepfake detection tools. These tools will enable real-time identification and mitigation of deepfakes, helping prevent misinformation and ensuring a secure digital ecosystem. Moving beyond this special initiative, there are global and Indian efforts to promote ethical AI practices. Globally, we have the OECD Principles on AI, which emphasizes fairness, transparency, and accountability. Another notable example is UNESCO's recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence, adopted in the year 2021. Domestically, India has also been proactive. The National Strategy for AI, developed by Niti Aayog, lays down a framework for fostering responsible AI development with a focus on inclusivity and fairness. Similarly, Niti Aayog's Responsible AI #AI for All guidelines emphasize transparency, bias mitigation, and privacy respecting AI systems.
As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. The winter session 2024 of Parliament, both houses, was adjourned sine die recently. Adjournment sine die means terminating a sitting of Parliament for an indefinite period. Here, the House is adjourned without naming a day for reassembly. The power of adjournment sine die lies with the presiding officer of the House. Recently, RBI has conducted a variable rate repo or VRR auction. VRR auction is a monetary tool used by RBI for liquidity injection. Under this mechanism, the RBI allows banks to borrow at a rate decided by the market, which is generally lower than repo rate, for a duration more than 1 day. Bills financed through TREDS or Trade Receivables Electronic Discounting System have seen significant growth in 2024. TREDS is an electronic platform for the online discounting of bills of MSMEs for supplies to large corporates. It facilitates the discounting of both invoices and bills of exchange. The Cabinet has hiked the Cobra MSP by up to 420 rupees to 12,100 rupees per quintal for 2025. MSP is the minimum price at which the government buys crops from farmers to ensure a fair income. The Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices makes recommendations, while the final decision is made by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, chaired by the Prime Minister. Researchers at IISER Pune have created a new aerogel capable of extracting gold from e-waste. This innovation could help reduce both electronic waste and harmful mining practices. Aerogels were invented in the 1930s. They were created by combining a polymer with a solvent to form a gel and then removing the liquid from the gel and replacing it with air. A study in the Springer Nature journal reveals that California ground squirrels are opportunistic omnivores, exhibiting hunting and stealth behavior. More than 200 squirrel species exist worldwide, with the notable exception of Australia. The Indian palm squirrel or three-striped palm squirrel is an omnivore, primarily feeding on fruits and nuts, but also consuming eggs, small birds, larvae, and insects. India and the Asian Development Bank or ADB recently signed a $350 million policy-based loan under the second sub-program of the SMILE or Strengthening Multimodal and Integrated Logistics Ecosystem Program. This program is a programmatic policy-based loan or PBL by ADB to support the Government of India in undertaking wide-ranging reforms in the logistics sector. Naga writer Easterin Kire's Spirit Nights has won the Sahitya Akademi Award 2024. The Sahitya Akademi was formally inaugurated in 1954 and is registered under the Societies Registration Act 1860. It is an autonomous body under the Ministry of Culture and undertakes literary activities in 24 languages. The UN General Assembly has declared December 21st as World Meditation Day to raise awareness about the benefits of meditation, emphasizing the right to physical and mental health. Supported by countries such as Liechtenstein, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Mexico, and Andorra, the resolution was adopted unanimously by the 193-member UN General Assembly on December 6, 2024. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.